name is Dr. Tracy Karras, and welcome to the SOH, otherwise known as the state of healthcare. The state of healthcare in the United States, let's be honest, is actually one of illness. We spend far more money than any other nation to receive less care and less quality of care. Walter Cronkite calls it neither healthy, caring, or a system. As a healthcare professional who's had 20 plus years in this system, my focus is on prevention and education and trying to get patients back to actually enjoying happy and functional lives. So it's frustrating to me when I have to watch my patients and my friends and my family fight against a system just to get what little care they do, and oftentimes get a medication thrown at them instead of actually looking for what the problem is, or trying to find a healthier alternative that's not going to damage them in the long term. That's why we're here, so I invite you to join me on this journey. We're going to be starting to raise awareness. Awareness is the first step in any good 12-step program, right, to making change. We have a broken system where only a few people profit, and I'm not picking on all of those hard healthcare workers in the trenches, because those are the people, unfortunately, getting burnt out and leaving the system. So we need to figure out what's going on. So in this podcast, we're going to be interviewing some healthcare professionals, people in the industry, people surrounding the industry, and try to figure out what's going on here, what's broken for them, what would make their lives easier, and how we're going to do this. So welcome to the SOH, and let's figure out what's going on. So welcome back to our third episode, and today we are here with Julie, and I'm actually going to let Julie introduce herself a little bit, give a little background on your history in healthcare, where you're at now. So I'm going to let you kind of take it from here.
Awesome. So my name is Julie Hoffman. I have been licensed as a registered nurse since the early 90s, a different millennium, as it were. And I had a very lengthy career in nursing, started my career as a labor and delivery nurse, wound up doing a lot of leadership. And then I finished my career still in leadership in hospice. So I started with birth and finished with hospice, like a full cycle kind of thing for me. While I was working in hospice, I became certified as a yoga instructor, and I've been a very active yoga practitioner for over 20 years. I had maybe about 5 years when I was younger, my late teens, early 20s. And then when I had my son, I stopped for a long time, didn't do it very consistently. So I became a yoga instructor with the intent that this was always going to be my retirement career. Started teaching prenatal yoga almost right away, and then worked up to where I was working full-time as a nurse leader and basically full-time as a yoga instructor. That was a little crazy. Sort of backed off on that, found a part-time way to do that, and then just left my nursing leadership job, interestingly, about 6 months before the pandemic hit. So that was just fortuitous timing on my part. And now I teach yoga full time. I also do quite a bit of tarot reading. I'm an astrologer, and I just couldn't be happier. I often joke and say, had you told me 10 years ago I was going to be basically a PE teacher living on a farm, I would have been in hysterics, but it's the best life ever.
Well, so here's my question. What actually made you exit the, I guess, technically healthcare field, although I feel like wellness is definitely part of healthcare?
Yeah. So the company that I worked for went through managers quite frequently, and I had in a 3-year period 6 different leaders.
Oh, wow.
And I was on leader number 4, and they basically asked me to do something that I disagreed with. And that was when I decided that was enough of that. Okay. So yeah, I stayed a couple more months, kind of got them all settled, and then went on my way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and again, you may, I guess, life was like, here's the pandemic coming. We don't know. Right. Well, here's my question, because it's only been a few years, actually. What were some of the things what were some of your favorite parts of being in healthcare, I guess? What were some of your...
Yeah, so I loved doing labor and delivery, and I actually did that as a staff nurse for 8 years, I think. And I am an empath, so labor and delivery mostly is really good. When it's not good, it's awful. But to constantly be in that high of people welcoming new babies into their lives, that was amazing. Hospice, at the end of my career, I really felt that we were doing what the patient wanted. And I don't think that Western healthcare always focuses on the patient. But in hospice, I felt like we really could go in and look and see, like, what do you want? And we could give the patient that. Most of my career was in leadership. It was a solid 20, little over 20 years, maybe.
Okay.
And I truly loved it. I loved solving problems. I loved being in that position of helping people, of growing new leaders. It truly was something I loved. And then I say there was just a point where I was like, and I'm done. I think it just ran its course. If you're familiar with astrology, when I hit my first Saturn return, I became a nurse. And as I approached my second Saturn return, I stopped being a nurse. I became a yoga instructor. So if I go through my third Saturn return, we'll see, I'll be between 88 and 90. So hopefully I don't have to start another career then, but you never know. You don't know what's coming.
Well, then I guess we always ask the other end of it. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in?
Yes. So for instance, the reason I left, I had a drop in census at my program and it had been down for 2 weeks and I was asked to lay people off, which seemed to me like a knee-jerk reaction. That was not the first time I'd had to lay people off. That's hard. It's really hard to lay people off. It's hard to fire people, even when you feel like, okay, sometimes it's so blatant, so cut and dry, but you are making someone jobless and taking away their ability to take care of their family. It's necessary, but it is hard. It's not something that's easy, certainly, to do to someone, to try and send them out into the world when they're not being efficient in your job, but also you don't want them to become homeless or, their kids not to have food, that kind of thing. I would say that there is a lot of politics if you're in leadership, that you can wind up, I think I'm back to letting people go, but sometimes someone's protected and they're not going to be let go, even though they're not, in my mind, really contributing. So I have to let go of someone who's really helping me because someone else is being protected by someone higher than me. And at one point I was an exec. I was pretty high up and that was still happening. There would still be someone who was being protected. So, excuse me, that was challenging. For sure. Yeah.
It's kind of that age old. I feel like it's in any profession, right?
There's always probably
you have to get rid of the actual people that are contributing, and then you're basically laboring with the handicapped and then still so.
And in nursing is the kings and queens of always picking up the slack. So if today we don't have enough housekeeping, we don't have enough respiratory therapists, you were always asking your team, hey, we don't have respiratory today. Can you do this with your patients while you're still doing all of your own work? So that was challenging also.
And that's a little bit what I've heard when I've talked to the staff on nursing, is that if there's not PT, if there's not like a CNA, if there's not respiratory, if there's not, or the doctor's orders, or you're just basically doing everybody's job and then still trying to do your job.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But honestly, I loved it. I loved helping people, figuring out how we're going to get through these shifts. And then eventually I did just think, okay, that was it. It ran its course. I'm done. On to the next thing.
Well, and speaking of the next thing, so I feel like, so you have a wide variety where you teach yoga. You have many areas. So I'm going to have you talk about that.
Yeah. So I worked for a mobile yoga company called Yoga's Arc, and they send yoga anywhere it's needed. They do not have a brick and mortar studio. So through them, I can be in an office building. I can be at a center that's a survivor for victims of sexual assault, sexual violence. They are the ones that send me into the women's prison. I go to a women's prison and I teach yoga. That is actually my passion. That's my favorite thing of everything I do. That's one thing I work for. I work for ASU, and that's my master's degree in business allows me to be an adjunct professor at ASU. Master's in anything, you can be an adjunct professor.
Nice.
So I teach yoga, and I do that during the academic year, 6 classes a week. It keeps me quite busy. Right. And it is like a regular class. They're coming in, I'm taking attendance, I'm assigning them grades. I do love to do that. And it's amazing because they are the age of like my grandchildren. They're so much younger than me.
Uh-huh.
So, but it is really fun to work with them and to try and keep up with the slang. You know, the things they say to me, I sometimes will have to text a younger colleague, what does this word mean? This, I can tell it's complimentary, but I'm like, what exactly did they just tell me? You know, Paige, because you're here at Elevate. So I will text Paige because she works with high schoolers. So she'll tell me, oh yeah, here's what they said. And then I work here. This is an aerial studio that we're sitting in. I decided to learn aerial when I was 58 because I felt that if I waited too much longer, I would talk myself out of it, just simply because I would talk myself into you're too old. Because we do that, right? We talk ourselves in and out of different things. So I became certified when I was 59 and really didn't have a solid plan to become an aerial instructor, but did the apprenticeship here through Charlie, our lead instructor, and then was offered beginning in 2022, I think it was just a year ago, to be on the sub list, and then I got some classes. So yeah, so I'm here as well. So it is pretty, excuse me, pretty all over the place. And I guess one other thing I do when my students who are incarcerated get out, they contact me. And we have tea, we have coffee, and we also do yoga together. And I do say to them, it's good to, you know, to have someone on the outside who's a friend and that you don't have to explain, like, where were you for 12 years? I already know. That's where I met you. You were incarcerated. No judgment on my part. And so I often will also work with folks who are decarcerated, either through grants that I received or sometimes just for free, to help them become more resilient as they come out into the world and have to make decisions.
That's
so
really nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's amazing. They are truly my favorite group. And then some of them get to be friends. You know, you meet these people under challenging circumstances, and then we stay in touch and we get to be friends.
That's actually a really good program, because I feel like you start with, well, and you said that the program in yoga, well, a couple things. One, I think, didn't you say that the basically the people in prison are essentially more flexible and able to do so many more things than like your ASU students?
Yeah. So often Tuesdays are my day I go to the prison, and Tuesday morning I'll be at ASU during the school year, and I teach 2 classes. And then I go to the prison, and I'm always amazed at how much stronger, how much more flexible they are. So I do say to people, we have that stereotype of when you're incarcerated, you work out all the time. I'm like, it appears to be accurate. You know, these women are, and I definitely have people come into my class who are newer, who can't do it. But some of these women I've been working with for a year, and they, you know, they're beyond my capability at this point. I actually went back and relearned arm balances because I'd kind of let go of those. Again, just because of my age, I'm like, oh, I'm 60. I don't need to do arm balances. No, I did because they could do arm balances. So I had to bring that back in and kind of help them with that. So they are an amazing group for sure.
Well, and I also, I think you touched on a couple of things. One, just age things. I feel like so many people have that, that thing in their mind. And I had worked somewhere where the focus was on 50 and above, just back to strength building, back to all these things, because I feel like as people age, they get that mentality in their mind that this is it, right? I'm just going to go downhill from here. I can't learn new things. I can't get flexible. I can't get back to this. And unfortunately, I feel like our healthcare system sort of encourages that.
I would completely agree. So my brother he is a soccer player. He's just a little bit younger than I am. And he and I were talking one time, and he said, most people don't learn new things after like even their 30s or 40s.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, well, I learned aerial yoga in my late 50s. Like I was close to 60. And he said, that's very unusual that you would learn that at that point in time. And I do think that the world will tell you, well, and I, to an extent, was telling it to myself, as I said, if I don't learn it now, I'm going to be too old, or I'm not going to do arm balances anymore because I'm 60. I don't have to do those. But then I did. I had to relearn them, which was fine. It came right back. But I do think we're encouraged to, you're older, you can slow down. You can sit on the couch and read a book to your grandkids or whatever. And I have aerial silk in my house, so my grandkids are flipping into the aerial silk and, you know, doing all sorts of things, because that's what we've got at my house. That's visiting Grammy, what that looks like.
Well, and to be honest, I feel like if you just encourage, because a lot of my patients, I'm like, well, they're sedentary, right?
Yes.
And it's breaking that cycle of the sedentary and prevention and things like that, because once you hit that, then it's like there is that downslope, right? If you don't get up and you don't move and you don't do these things. And so I feel like, and again, sometimes it's painful, so it's like this weird cycle of things. But I feel like it's a testament to you that you had the resiliency to like go against those stereotypes, or go against even the fears in your head of like, oh, I may be too old to learn this, or this might be, you know, and just advance it. On the other end of the spectrum, talk to me about how inflexible your ASU students are.
Yeah. So, and this is interesting because I feel like every semester it gets worse. And I think that this is a group of people who have been sitting and playing video games or working on a computer literally their whole life. So I sometimes will, on the first day of class, come in, sit with my legs crossed, and I can see the students attempt it, and they have, you know, their knees way up and they have this look like deer in the headlight on their face. And so I will literally say, you know, straighten your legs in front of you, put your hands by your hips and just lean back, because they do not have that flexibility to sit with their legs crossed. These are people who are late teens, early 20s.
Oh gosh.
You say, touch your toes, lean forward, their hands are at their knees.
Right.
And so again, I'm saying the only important thing, and this is true, the only important thing in a forward fold is to relax your head and neck. You know, it doesn't matter what your hands do, but I'll say, bend your knees, rest your arms above your knees. You don't have to bring your fingers down to the floor.
Right.
When I work with them, because they're so young and we get through a semester, they're way better. At the end of a semester, they can make strides that someone my age cannot make, just because they're younger. Their body has more memory of, oh yeah, we used to be able to do this. It's okay. Yes. Yeah. When you're older, and I do always tell them the last day of class, I talk about the yoga journey. And I say, your yoga journey may begin and end with this class. That's totally okay. Keep moving. Keep moving. Find a way to move that agrees with you. You can walk. You can, you know, some people can run or hike or box. I mean, there's a million different things you can do. When I have athletes in my class, because I often do, I will say to them, keep working out, because I feel like the world is losing its athletes. Like we're becoming a very sedentary society as a whole. So if you are really bought into, this is, I live in a body and I move this body. And I know that sounds funny, but I swear there's people who are wandering around that have no concept of you're in a physical body, and what you feed yourself and how you move matters. You know, they just have no concept of that. So yeah, I do try and encourage them, keep moving, keep doing it. And I do tell them my age, because I feel like that's important to understand. Like, you can be 60 and you can do yoga. And if I can't do a shape, I call it out. You've taken my classes. So if I can't do a shape in aerial, I will say, like, I can't do the shape. Sometimes I can figure out how to talk people into it, but I personally may not be able to do it consistently. And I feel like it's okay to say that. Like, I don't have to be able to do everything. I can teach people and still not do all the things, but I do call it out. And I will call out if I can't do a variation of a shape, because some of my students can. And at ASU, some of them can. I'll say, like, your heel may touch the floor and this, mine doesn't. And I had one student, not at ASU, but at a different studio, say, I never knew you could drop your heel in this shape. It was Skandasana, the funky monkey, because she said, no teachers ever told me that. So I feel like if as a teacher I can't do it, I can still tell them, hey, here's another step you can take. So.
No, and that's also because, and just yoga in general, I think is, you know, like, everyone has their own set of injuries. Everyone has their own journey with it. So it doesn't necessarily, I feel like that's what people need to remember is I have a lot of people that have that fear of yoga, that they don't want to go because they can't do everything.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're like, I can't do all the things. I'm like, that's okay. Like,
yes. Yeah.
You know, even in class, we did a class this morning and there was a whole playtime, right?
Yes.
Where all of us were doing completely different
yes,
things.
exactly. Yeah.
And everyone based on what their own goals are, where their bodies are at. And that's what I appreciate about it. But it's interesting because unfortunately, you've got the younger, right? You've got your ASU students who aren't moving. And then you've got people being encouraged older not to move. And I feel like we're fighting against this whole, like, you know, stay inside your house and just play on your computer mentality.
Yeah.
Which again, you know, there's as with all the things, but this is the health journey of the kind of basically a little bit of when I'm watching around, or that's why I'm seeing patients. You know, I even had a conversation with a patient and he kept talking about his back pain. And I said, what do you do all day? He sits.
Yeah, sure. So of course your back hurts.
I told him, I go, I think we found the source of your back pain. And he goes, I'm the problem. And I was like, yeah, Taylor Swift style, you're the problem, right? This is why your back hurts. But I guess to address a little bit for me, I know you've had even some of your own health concerns and things throughout the years, like from a Western medicine standpoint. I feel like we're floundering and trying to just figure our.
So I'm pretty open about this. I was told, oh gosh, at least in 2010, I think I'm at least 13 years into this particular journey, that I had rheumatoid arthritis, and I've had osteoarthritis since probably I was 14. I've had, and the osteo runs in my family. I don't know where the rheumatoid came from. And I was asked when my primary doctor told me, you have rheumatoid arthritis, do you want to see a rheumatologist? And I was like, no, because I said, I'm not going to do what Western medicine says to do for RA. It's what I call rheumatoid arthritis, RA. And so for me, and doctors and nurses are fascinated when they talk to me that I'm 13 years into this journey. I'm a yoga instructor. I literally hang upside down, but I said it's movement and diet. It's diet and exercise, which, sorry, that's the answer to everything. I know nobody likes it. That's hard, right? It's not take a pill and feel better. It's what can I eat that's going to nourish my body and help me and not disturb me. And of course, nobody's perfect. Like I love chocolate, you know, I love sugar, but I can't eat sugar constantly. There's things I just can't do. And then how can I move my body, and finding that balance again, not being crazy and over the top, but what's my balance? My personal balance is to move quite a bit. When I stop for my summer at ASU, I actually can feel it in my body. Like I have to pick up my movement and go to some other things. I have to take more classes as a student or pick up more classes to sub, because my body is used to moving more. So you definitely do want to look at that and see. And when we were talking earlier about sitting, when I'm in a class and I will talk about like our shoulders are tight because we sit, we drive our cars, we work on computers. And then I do tend to say no judgment. I mean, that's how I get from point A to point B. I drive my car. Amazingly, you do work on a computer as a yoga instructor. That's definitely a real thing. So I don't want to call people out. I do really encourage, like, you have to find what works for you as an individual, and just try and really be open to, this is where you're at today. Some people, as you said, our yogi playtime today was amazing. We had a woman who's never been in the studio who was climbing all the way up to the ceiling. We have people who are resting in the silk because that's always an option. And sometimes that's what we most need, is to rest. And everything in between, you know, everything in between, working
together.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was really fun to watch and fun to see. We didn't really have if you're familiar with yoga, Shavasana, our resting time was like 1 minute. I'm like, okay, that's it.
It's kidding, we played too long, but it's fine.
It's okay. Yeah. Because that was what everybody needed today. So you have to find that balance, and you have to be able to give people permission and not be judgmental on, oh, you can't do that. Well, yeah, neither can I. Like, who cares? Let's work on it. We can work on it together, or we can try some other things to help get you there, kind of thing.
No, and that was actually really fun watching today, because I felt like a lot of people were playing and helping. And again, it goes back to that whole thing with yoga. Sometimes I bring it up and people are like, I can't go because I'm not flexible. I can't go because but the problem is you just continue in that cycle, right? Because well, you're never going to get flexible or any of these things if you don't actually start the journey, right?
Yes.
So it's just, and it's interesting because so I went to ASU, and then in between I took a year off to earn money and get extra classes, but I took a job where I now sat 40 hours a week.
Oh, yeah.
And instantly, like, I did not feel good.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I put on 10 pounds right away, and I just did not feel good because I was used to walking everywhere, using the gym. I would have a class and then I'd walk, and then I'd have this and I'd go somewhere, and I don't sit still very well. So I'm all of a sudden like trapped to a desk, like, reminding myself why I wanted an active profession in the first place, because I was like, oh my gosh. So I started having to get up and pace the building and up and down the stairs.
Oh, yeah.
And it was hard with this corporate mentality as I'm in there. Literally, we worked on the second floor, and we would get up, and at 7 a.m. we'd all take the elevator down the stairs. And I'm working with people, we're all in our early 20s at the time, right? We would take the elevator down the stairs to the break room where everybody buy like a donut.
Oh, yeah.
And then you walk back and you get back in the elevator. And I'm like, we're one flight up and we're like 20 years old. Get your butt up the stairs, and it was just this weird mentality. And I was like, what am I doing? So I would still go with everybody to hang out, but then I would take the stairs, just get a cup of ice, come back with my cup of ice, and I'm like, what are we doing? So it's just interesting how that cycle of that stuff, just, I think the importance of movement. I love that you talk about that a lot with things, and just, and just, I love part of the reason I love your classes. I love the options and the encouragement, and just, and I don't know, I just always appreciate the energy with that. But I get to ask the annoying questions now. How do you think the pandemic affected not only just, I guess, maybe healthcare, but even like the things here? Because I know they were doing virtual classes, which is still still goes, which is nice. But
so healthcare, I do believe nursing is an industry in crisis. Healthcare in general is in crisis. I did not work through this pandemic. I have worked through pandemics in the past. I do not think they were I don't think their reach was as intense as this particular one was. I am still licensed as a nurse. I have worked with a number of nurses in a coaching / tarot reading session who are just trying to figure out, like, where do I go from here, sort of thing.
Right.
And I think that it's not just nursing. I've talked to physical therapists, different specialties within healthcare that are really struggling. Because I was in leadership, I thought, what would I have done when they said everyone has to receive this vaccine, because I believe you should be able to make that choice for yourself. So how would I have handled that? And I didn't have to handle it. So I don't, I don't have an answer for that. But I think there's a lot of stress throughout the healthcare system. Yoga, I think we were blessed to live in Arizona. So by May of 2020, so literally just a couple months after the pandemic started, we had the okay to teach yoga in yoga studios without a mask on. They wanted you to wear a mask as you walk to your mat. Now, again, being a nurse, I always thought that was so funny that I could wear like a piece of cloth over my face, which blocks nothing. If you know the size of a virus, you need to have a mask that's actually going to block something that size. Cloth does not, but hey, I'll play along. To walk through a restaurant or walk through a yoga studio and then I'm like, that's super silly, but whatever. I feel that we were able to get back into the studios very quickly. And at times they would request we wear masks. For the most part, I feel Arizona is a little bit of the Wild West, and we basically didn't. People in other states wore masks and worked out for much longer. I, again, think that's very challenging because breath is such a part of yoga. So to have something over my nose and mouth when I'm either trying to teach or practice yoga was challenging. I had luckily very minimal of that I had to do. I think there's probably a group of people who became so scared. My dad is one, he's 83, who is just so scared that he can hardly leave his house still for anything. He listens to the news all the time. On Christmas this last year, which was just our family, he actually wore a mask inside the house. Okay. I was like, dude, I don't know. So we had dinner outside, which again, thank goodness we're in Arizona, so it wasn't freezing cold. But again, I feel like, what's the difference? Like, it's not like if I'm carrying a virus, it's not like when I'm outside, it magically doesn't go to other people. Like if we're in contact, we're in contact. But I think you do have people who just sort of dropped out of life and became scared. Every semester, I still have, probably only had one this semester who wore a mask, who still are wearing a mask. And like, I think a heavy duty mask, like an N95, which does protect from viruses. You know, it's, maybe it was an N99. I don't know. So it does make me feel bad, but to be fair, I feel like there were always people that wore masks even before the pandemic, who just, that was their comfort level. And I support that. I would never call someone out if they feel like, hey, I have this issue and I need to use this. My husband and I both are technically immunocompromised. I have rheumatoid arthritis. He has other health issues. We don't wear masks. So, and how's it all going to turn out in the end? We don't know, right? I mean, we'll have to just wait and see. So I feel like this particular studio really has a lot of students that it seems to me, and this studio definitely, if someone came in and was like, I want to wear a mask, great, that's great. You can definitely wear one.
Right.
But I feel like other studios I've been a part of have dropped, their census has dropped. This one seems to be actively growing. This is a really good community. We were talking earlier, we both drive like 20 miles to get here, 18 miles for me. Yeah, one way, 18 miles. So it's worth it. It's a good community. I do like to be a student and teach here.
Right. No, and that's, I think that part of what from the pandemic, and then we can talk about the healthcare shortage and the madness, but just that I learned was that people need community because so much isolation and and just, you know, there was so much fear and so much stuff, and then that fear becomes a stressor, which then makes your health compromised, which then, you know, and it becomes this cycle of. So at the time when I was working in a clinic, our goal was just to let everybody be kind. So we were often separating fights, you know, with people, the things, but then we were also just focused on moving and joy, and we did a lot of dancing and just these things where you like forget about what's happening, right? You're not in denial of the world, but it was like still letting people have, because I think they missed that, and I think that was, you know, so I do appreciate, you know, that I'm glad that a lot of the businesses I love like here are still around and survived through that. But I was reading Arizona, I think we're the 9th in the nation for the crisis of healthcare, because they're missing the most in nursing, PT, OT, and I think mental health is where most of the people, there's a shortage right now.
Yeah. And truthfully, because I left pre-pandemic, it's a little hard for me to speak to everything that's going on. I definitely know people who are in healthcare, but it's not my primary point of focus at this point. I'm not surprised that we are struggling more. We are a right to work state. So other states, they're probably just paying better, basically. You know, if you're unionized, which having been a leader, that was always a great fear to have people unionize because it just maybe added an extra component to leadership. I've never had to work in that type of an environment. It might be just fine. But it also, in terms of being a staff person, would give you probably better benefits and more money. So Arizona doesn't have that.
No, and honestly, I was talking to someone and they were saying there was actually a healthcare shortage, especially even nursing prior. It just now has been highlighted because of this and that.
Yeah, and I think that nursing is probably a lot of people, I think there's more people exiting than coming in. When I became a nurse, nursing didn't pay well. It became a good paying job while I was in the career. But it was that classic, it was a female occupation. And like, I think when I got hired, I was paid $12 an hour. Keep in mind, this is 1992.
However, you had this nice glass ceiling.
So $12 an hour, and I was responsible for making sure that mothers and babies didn't die. And this is before we had central monitoring. So you have big responsibilities for what now would be like fast food wages. And fast food pays better. Yeah, fast food pays better than that now. And teaching also, I have a sister who's a teacher, did not make great money. Nurses like put their foot down and refused to do the things. So nursing wages went up. And my friends who are teachers are still, I feel like that's still a passionate career. You have to be passionate. So nursing, when I went into it, you had to be passionate. You had to want to be a nurse. Nursing then became you can make good money as a nurse. So it was one of those careers you could do. Nursing is intense though. Even if you go into it like, hey, I'm going to make good money, you're literally dealing with other people's bodily fluids. So it's not just like, hey, I'm making a bunch of money. Yeah, there's a lot going on in nursing that you sort of have to wrap your head around and deal with. So if you are in a state where the wage is $10, $20, $15 lower than another state, why not move? Why not take a travel job and leave?
Right. Well, we were actually, there's two things. One, even for PT, what I've noticed a lot is post-pandemic, a lot of the experienced therapists didn't come back. You're getting mostly new grads out there, right? Which is both good and bad, because now I was just talking, our first issue was with someone who's like, well, where's the OGs that are here to give that experience? Now you've got people helping that, again, are educated but don't have experience, right? So you're getting all of this. And then they were saying that's even like nursing, or you're getting travelers, which, because they're getting paid more, but then they aren't familiar with the thing.
They may have worked a floor for 6 months and then traveled. And I do say to people, so I'm still licensed. I've been a nurse for over 30 years and I'm a full-time yoga instructor. Another nurse I know who worked the floor is a flight attendant. We've left because it is that bad that people have just said, you know what, forget it. I'd rather do something else. And in nursing, like anything where you're licensed, so if you're having a horrible day in nursing, and every nurse who hears this has probably had this day where you have more patients than you can safely care for, that is something that happens. Even if you pull every administrative person in your hospital, and some of them are going to be very little help just because they've been off the floor for so long. So you could pull everyone in your hospital to help you. You still have too many patients to safely care for. But because of emergency rules, if it's flu season, everyone has too many patients. There's nothing you can do. You just have to figure it out. There's no other place like, oh, I'll just send them to this other hospital. So you are literally putting your license at risk. Nurses have not been sued until fairly recently, and now nurses are being sued.
Interesting. Okay.
So I think people are just like, you know what?
I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, why would I deal with this? Why would I risk my license? Why would I risk literally going to prison when it's the healthcare is in a crisis? I truly have no idea what they're going to do to fix it.
Well, I guess that goes with what would be, in an ideal world, what would be a healthcare world that you would like to see, or what would one thing that you feel like should be, like, I guess.
Yeah. So Western medicine, I do say to people, is not broken. It's functioning as it's meant to function. Western medicine is meant to figure out what your problem is and address your problem. If I'm having a heart attack and I come in, they are going to stop my heart attack, maybe with a cardiac cath or whatever. Where we don't do anything in Western medicine is to look holistically at, why did you have that heart attack? And we'll fix you. And again, it's a treat and street. Like, I have fixed you, you're good.
Right.
If you are looking at things from a more holistic standpoint, that could help prevent you from having another heart attack. And certainly it's out there. Like, you may wind up in a cardiac clinic, that cardiac rehab clinic, that's going to just be amazing and look at you and like, oh, you're a smoker and you're sedentary, and let's work with you, let's help this. But I think we are a society also that is used to, you feel bad and here's a pill, versus you feel bad and I need you to walk every day and I need you to eat food that's healthy. That's hard. That's much harder work. Right. So for me, it's that combination of, how do we bring in the holistic healthcare? How do we not just put a Band-Aid over things? The industry, obviously you do have to cap things at some point. So if I need, if my nursing staff is in the thousands, which it can easily be even at a small hospital, and my nurses won't work unless they're all making $250,000 a year, and healthcare, the insurance is not reimbursing me for anything. How,
like,
how do
what am I going to do?
Yeah. Where do I find that balance? Other countries that and that's another challenging thing, I think, in our country, is that medical bankruptcy is one of the big things that can take people out. You can work your whole life and you can have a devastating illness, and it can take everything, your insurance, just to get through that. So what's the solution to that? I don't know. You hear in other countries that have socialized medicine, it's good, it's not good. I don't know. I can't speak intelligently to that. My husband and I have taken an extreme approach of not using Western medicine. So I will go in if I feel like there's something really wrong. I have a bone sticking out of my body. I'll go in. Western medicine's great. Fix it.
Right.
Rheumatoid arthritis, I'm like, do not touch me. Do not write that in my chart. I'm good. I will figure this out on my own. Because I feel like that's a spiral down into non-wellness.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. So even from the PT perspective, right? So you get a patient, say you come in for knee pain and they're labeled as a knee. So you're going to be a lot of things that frustrated me is that you just do a bunch of exercises to strengthen your knee. But what I've seen start to come more with the profession, which is good, is now that you're like, why did they have knee pain?
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
what happened?
I can give you a bunch of exercises to strengthen your knee and you'll probably improve, right? But then most likely you're not going to go home and do these. And then we never figured out what caused. I mean, there's things where obviously you fell or this or that. There's obvious causes.
Yeah.
But a lot of times there's imbalances that if you don't actually look at the person as a whole person, you're going to miss that. And so it's interesting to hear it called like holistic, or it's not Western medicine. And I'm like, it's just treating the person as a human, right?
Yeah.
Like you're actually looking at them, like, what are these stressors in their life? What do they do for work? How do they sleep? What are they doing? Like, and just trying to figure out what are the inputs that actually got this person here.
Yes.
So I always tell patients, I see them like an onion, like I'm peeling the layers back because we've got to fix things. And sometimes as we peel the layers back, we're going to find a lot more dysfunction and it's going to feel frustrating. But the goal is ultimately you go like a lot healthier of a person.
Yes.
So I think it is frustrating when I see like you're just addressing like what, like you come in and again, you're in a hospital, you come in, they're like, oh, we got to fix this. But then there's nothing. It's the treat and straight. And then the person leaves with the same thing. So you're going to see them again for the same problem.
Right. Exactly.
And that's what frustrates me. But,
I have a yoga therapy client who has 2 to 3 kidney infections a year.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, oh my gosh. And the first time I met with her, she was recovering from one and she just looked exhausted. And I did explain that to her, that treat and street. And I said, so we talked a little bit about why potentially she was having so many infections. And I don't want to get into why. Nothing big, but it was just her personal story.
Right.
So I did think, hey, I think it could be this. And, you have to look at this rather than just, because I said to her, you're also in adrenal fatigue. Your adrenals are on top of your kidneys. Like if you're constantly having kidney infections, that's exhausting.
Right.
No one should have to live through that. But in Western medicine is telling her, some people are just prone. And I said,
here's some medicine.
Here's some antibiotics. Take these, head on out. And that is what Western medicine is set up to do. So I actually said to her, I think you should go see a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner and look at the meridians and what your kidneys specifically represent and take it from there. But I did tell her, here's my opinion on why you're having this issue. So we'll see. I don't know if she's booked a follow-up. I'll have to look and see.
See what plays out for that story. Because it is interesting, even for PT and nursing, you're also in these people's lives, that there's a huge mental component of it as well. And so sometimes it's not just therapy of this, right? It's like, talk to me about your day. Let's find your stressors. Like maybe this isn't working because there's so much other stuff happening here. So I just feel like, that but things that you just go in and the doctor just says, okay, well, there was an episode of the show Scrubs where it said the average doctor listens 8 seconds before they have made a decision. And again, it's Scrubs. I don't know if this is statistics, but.
Well, so if you think, I have managed clinics and hospital inpatients, and in a clinic, you are going to have a workload that is probably truly beyond what's, really feasible. So when someone comes in and says, I have fill in the blank, if it's something you've seen multiple times, your brain is going to jump to, and here's what we should do. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but again, as a system, we are not set up to like, let's sit down, let's dig deep, let's see if we can figure out what's actually causing this problem.
It's interesting in the episode, they would listen and then they'd run off and like do this and they'd run off and listen. And then it was like towards the end of the episode, the one guy stops and he like takes all of the statements that she's had and comes together and he's like, oh, and it was actually a case of like the girl had been poisoning herself because she was depressed and like he finally and so he like finally listened to the statements and put it together because then they'd be like, well, let's go run another test. And it was just
Munchausen is really hard to diagnose. They're tricky. And they like the attention.
So it was interesting because I was like, and again, you want the healthcare practitioner who can make the quick decision and run through the train and do what they need to. But
we had a great ER doctor who would come in, sit down, literally put his feet up, put his hands behind his head, and he would say, hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm your doctor. What's going on?
Wow.
And it was, just like, I'm here. I'm kicking back. I'm here for the duration. Tell me, what do you need to tell me? Yeah, let's go.
Interesting. Okay. Was he popular? Like, did he?
Yeah, those ER docs, they were a really good group of ER docs. Okay. I think in general, they were good. It's been a while since it's been like 7 years since I've been with that particular group. So I don't know what they're up to now, but they were a good group for sure.
Well, we're probably getting close to all the things. If there was one other piece of advice for either people in like, I mean, obviously we've touched on the fact that people need to move.
Yes.
Like, therapy is hard because I feel like I have a lot of my stuff is life changes, right? Life changes. And nobody wants to do these exercises for the rest of their lives, but sometimes this is your world now, right?
Right.
But one piece of advice for someone navigating like life or healthcare or anybody for like nursing or
I do think to move, you have to figure out like what resonates with me. I love yoga. And that is when I talk to my students, yoga journey. I'm like, if you don't like yoga, that's totally okay. Just keep moving. You can walk. We can all walk, right? If we can't walk, then we can start taking a few steps in our homes and holding on to walls, holding on to furniture and begin to expand. So if I can walk outside and today I might say, I'm going to walk down to a stop sign and then I'm going to walk back. I'm going to walk to the neighbor's house and I'm going to walk back. And I'm going to do that for a week. And then next week I'm going to walk 2 houses. So I think we want to be realistic, I think is what I say to people. When you go to make a change and you're sedentary and you say, I'm going to start hiking 5 miles every day. It's like, that's probably not going to fly. It might, but if you can do shorter goals to sort of ease yourself into it, I think for me, that's really the key is realistically look at where you are and then set yourself up for success. So another client of mine who wanted to run, I was like, okay, when you are done with work, you have your clothes and your shoes right where you see them. Like she worked from home. I turned from my computer and right there are my running shoes and my clothes. So we're going to put those on and you're going to have those out the night before. So you're going to see them several times during the day. Like there's my stuff. I'm going to get ready. I'm going to go. You have to look at what do I do to make this work? If my shoes and my clothes to run are not there, maybe I wander to the kitchen instead and I eat cookies.
Right.
Like I love cookies, right? I mean, it happens.
And they're accessible.
Yeah. Hey, there's cookies. That's the challenge of being at the store. I was at Trader Joe's this week. I'm like, don't buy cookies, girl. Just don't do it. No cookies. It's all good. But sometimes I do. I buy the cookies. It's the balance. But I think you need to be realistic. Here's where I'm at. And how do I start to move forward and set yourself up for success? And then the other thing I say to people is when it doesn't happen, give yourself grace. Don't say I can only start a new diet, a new exercise plan on Monday, Tuesday, whatever it is. You didn't do it today, just do it tomorrow. Let it go. You don't have to have a big setup. Just, okay, it didn't happen. We're doing it tomorrow. Right. And you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go so you don't get hung up on that. That was 3 things, not 1.
That's perfect, actually. Yes, those all the amazing things. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk about all the things. And I'm excited, for whatever your third career might be.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm like, what will that be? Maybe I'll just like full time go into reading tarot and being a psychic because that I wouldn't have to be super active. So my husband's always like, could you just read tarot because it pays so well? And I'm like, dude, it's too much sitting.
Right. See, I know. No, we don't want the sitting. It's all about movement. Right.
You can do a little bit of tarot, a lot of yoga.
Right. Perfect. So again, thank you for your time today.
Yeah.
Keep moving, everybody. Yay.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you again for tuning in to the SOH, or State of Healthcare. This is Tracy Karras from Better Fit Therapy, asking you to tune in each week as a new podcaster. And if you can like, subscribe, share with your friends, find us on social media, but also feel free to comment. Let us know some areas you'd like to explore. What are some concerns you have with healthcare? Let us find some areas that would help relate to you, what's going on with everybody else, and help me raise some awareness so that we can work on some change. Thank you again, and have a good night.